I'm going to talk about the 12 habits of highly collaborative organizations. But these habits can be applied not just to collaboration technologies that you use, they can most likely be applied to any technology that you want to be successful within your company. So what are these 12 habits of highly collaborative organizations? I'm going to go through each one of these, so if you can't see them, don't worry about it. And I'll give you a story or an example for each one. Let's start off with number 1, which is individual versus corporate value. The big challenge that a lot of organizations face when they deploy these types of new technologies is that they overemphasize the benefit that this brings to the company. And they'll say things like, oh, this is going to make our company more money, we're going to be more productive, it's going to be great, we're going to cut costs. For the average employee, for the individual, they could care less about that kind of stuff. And so what organizations need to do is focus the conversation on what this means to the individual and not so much on what it means to the company. Is this going to enable me to work anywhere I want? Am I going to have more time to spend with my family? Am I not going to have to work late? Can I use my own platform when I get home from work? Right? What does this mean for me as an individual employee? EY, formerly Ernst & Young before they changed their name, is a great example of this. Now, EY identified a lot of rogue technologies that were being deployed within their organization. And like most organizations, they had a choice. Do we find these technologies and kill them, or do we do something else? So they found all the rogue technologies being used within their organization, all these collaboration platforms, and they went to those employees, and instead of killing their platforms, they said, why are you guys using this? We gave you something to use, and you're not using it. Why? And they spent time working with these employees and understanding why they were using their own technologies. And they turned all of these employees into champions, into evangelists that then supported the global initiative that EY was looking to launch. So when thinking about trying to deploy technologies within your organization, especially around collaboration, think about what you can do, right? Think about what you can do to follow that example of conveying individual versus corporate value. Tell stories. A lot of organizations use videos. There are a lot of powerful things that you can do.
I learned something absolutely insane today. 96% of the people who watch videos on this channel are not subscribed to it. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. It'll take you just 1 second and it helps the channel quite a bit. You'll also get access to new videos when they are released. Hit that subscribe button, and now let's get back to the content.
So let's go to the second one. The second one is strategy before technology. I can't tell you how many organizations I've spoken with that invest millions of dollars into expensive technologies only to figure out they don't know why they've invested in them to begin with. To give you an analogy of what that's like, it's like going into a hardware store, buying $1 million hammer, and then just showing up at home trying to bash in the walls, fixing every problem that you have. Right? It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't work. So what you need to do is figure out why you want something before you figure out what you actually need. Why do you need it? Unisys is a great example here. Gloria Burke, their chief knowledge officer, was responsible for deploying their entire collaborative initiative. And before they did anything, they've identified 8 key areas for why they needed these technologies to be in place. They knew that it was hard to find subject matter experts, that different teams within organizations were not talking to each other. So they had a very clear outline of what they wanted to do and why they wanted to do it, and only then did they start to look at the right technologies that they should be thinking about or using. So strategy always comes first before the technology piece. The third one is listen to the voice of the employee. A lot of organizations always ask, what is the number one thing that we can do to prepare ourselves for the future of work? And the number one thing is listen to the voice of the employee. Now, we look at a lot of organizations like Google or Facebook or LinkedIn that are offering these great fancy perks for their employees, and we start to think, oh, these are just bells and whistles. These are just crazy things that they're doing. Virgin just recently announced that they're going to give fathers 1 year of paid leave if they just had a child. Right? They're not doing this just for fun. They're not doing this to make a statement. They're doing this because they're listening to what their employees are asking for, and that is why they're creating these different types of programs. Good example of what not to do is Booz Allen Hamilton. Now, the last time I talked to them was probably 3-4 years ago, so I suspect a lot has changed within that organization since. But those of you that remember the Enterprise 2.0 conference, or a lot of these collaboration conferences, Booz Allen Hamilton was oftentimes the poster child for these conferences. They always had the executives sitting up on stage talking about how great they were doing, how much employee engagement they had, and it was fantastic. And the reason why they were doing such a good job is because they consistently listened to what their employees wanted. And every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, they would make tweaks and changes based on employee feedback. Things got to a point where it was so good that they said, we're just going to pass this project over to IT. Before that, it was run by lines of business. A lot of different teams were involved in making this successful. But they said, things are going great. Let's just pass it over to IT and put it in maintenance mode. Sure enough, IT took control over this project. And they said, well, we no longer really need to listen to employees that much. We don't need to do these 2 to 3 week iterative cycles. Let's just see what happens. And engagement plummeted. They went from 70 to 80% employee engagement levels to almost nothing, because they set the expectation of listening to the voice of the employee, and then they didn't. So if you get involved with these types of collaborative technologies, or any type of technologies for that matter, be prepared that employees are going to give you feedback. And it's up to you to take that feedback and do something with it. So that's the third thing. Listen to the voice of the employee. The fourth one is learn to get out of the way. My favorite example of this comes from a company called Tangerine, which is formerly ING Direct Canada. I spoke with their CEO over there, Peter Aceto. And Peter Aceto did something very, very interesting at Tangerine. He went publicly in front of all of his employees, which I believe were around 1,500 of them, and he went into their online digital environment, and he said, I'm going to give my employees the right to bitch. That's what he called it. He said, I want you to tell me everything you don't like about working here. Tell me what you're frustrated with. Tell me what you're angry about. Tell me what upsets you. And at first, employees were very skeptical because they were thinking, okay, is this like the first people that complain are the first ones to get fired? How's that going to work? Slowly but surely, people started to give him feedback. And they started to tell him all sorts of things. Everything from, we want our job titles on our business cards, to we want hash browns brought back to the breakfast menu cafeteria. Right? They were telling him everything. And when I spoke with Peter, I said, that's cool and everything, but let's be honest. The fact that your employees want hash browns isn't exactly amazing stuff. Right? I mean, it's not like you're going to make some sort of big change within your company because employees want hash browns. How does that help you? And he said, that's where you're wrong. Think about what that does for my corporate culture when an employee can come to me with something so small that they want hash browns brought back to the breakfast menu cafeteria. It creates a complete culture of openness, of trust, of transparency. And employees are able to come to Peter with absolutely anything and everything. And those of you, when you get a copy of the book outside, you'll see I wrote a more in-depth case study about some of the interesting things that Peter has been doing. And it's around embracing vulnerability, and he does a lot of really amazing things there. And keep in mind, he works for a financial institution. Right? These are very heavily regulated organizations. And he was able to do these things. So learn to get out of the way. And there are a lot of other examples of organizations that are doing a great job of this. But basically what you want to do is allow employees to use the technologies without enforcing or policing things the way you want them to get done. Next example is lead by example. This is definitely something that can apply to any type of technology or, in fact, any type of initiative that you want to run within your organization. Lead by example. My favorite story here comes from an organization called OSE, which for years I was calling OCHE, until I realized when I spoke in the Netherlands that I was horribly mispronouncing this company. OSE is a printing and outsourcing company. They have tens of thousands of employees. And they had a very difficult time making their collaboration efforts successful. And when I interviewed them, I said, what's the problem? Why couldn't you get employees to use these technologies? And they said, well, in the Netherlands and at our company, we have this culture where if you publicly go in front of employees and admit that you don't know something or that you need help, people think you're an idiot. And so no employee wanted to go out there and say, I need help with something. I don't know how to do this. Because all the other employees would look at that person and say, look at this idiot. Going out in front of everyone, doesn't know how to do that, schmuck. Right? Nobody wanted to be that person. So I asked him, I said, how did you get over that problem? How did you get over that issue? And he said, well, the first morons that we put up there were the managers. Right? They started with the managers. They started with all the senior executives, with all the senior leaders of the company, with the managers. And they said, you guys are going to be the first ones to admit that you don't know how to do something or that you need help with something. Go out there, ask employees for help, embrace that concept. And employees saw that, and then they started saying, well, my manager or executive is doing it, then it must be okay for me to do it. And slowly but surely, employees started asking and connecting with each other and asking for help and trying to support each other. And it was really an amazing thing to start to see. So think about what you can do within your organization and how you can get executives and managers involved for the programs that you want to drive. The next example is integrate into the flow of work. My favorite example of this is TELUS, which I understand is here as well somewhere. Oh, there you are. Hello. So TELUS does a fantastic job of integrating collaboration into the flow of work. Now, when I think of collaboration platforms, I like to think of them as the front door for your organization. I mean, every day when you get home, you don't go in the garage one day, the kitchen window the next day, climb around the back the next day, the chimney the other day. You always come in through the front door, through a central place. That's how these collaboration technologies need to be thought of, as the front door to the organization. Oftentimes, what companies do is they just pick some technology, they deploy it, and then they expect employees to use it in addition to all the other things they got going on. It's not integrated in any way. It's not part of how they do their jobs. It's just something that sits there. And because of that, employees never start to use it. But TELUS does a fantastic job of integrating their technologies together. Right? They have a dashboard that sits at the top of their collaboration environment where you can access different technologies that you need to use. Your billing, your invoicing, your accounting, right? Things that you need to get done are very easily accessible. You don't need to go to different places all the time and use dozens of usernames and dozens of passwords, right? It's very, very easy. So these technologies need to be integrated into how employees actually work. When you do that, you will see a dramatic increase in employees using collaboration platforms. Next example is create a supportive environment. Oftentimes, people forget that the digital environment we create needs to emulate the physical environment that we hope to have. I remember once I went to go speak with one of the world's largest grocery chains. And they invited me to come speak, and they said, you know, we're looking to become collaborative and transparent and open, and we want to use all these wonderful technologies. And I said, great, I would love to come meet with you guys. Let's talk. I show up to this organization. Everyone is in a suit and tie. And these are non-customer-facing roles, mind you. Men, women, everyone is dressed up like they're going to the most formal event of their lives. Everyone is sitting in a cubicle, and you could hear a pin drop in this place. And there's hundreds of people all over the place. I mean, this was a massive building. Meanwhile, this guy's telling me that they want to create this digital, collaborative, transparent, open environment when it is the most non-collaborative environment I have ever seen. And I was a little confused, so I asked the guy, I said, everybody's wearing a suit and tie here. Have you guys ever asked why? Why do you guys all have to wear a suit and tie? And they said, yeah, one day we asked our CEO, and I said, and what did he say? And he said, well, he said it was like that the day he got there, and it's going to be like that the day he leaves. End of conversation. That's it. That is what he wanted. Those were the rules. No questions asked. That is not a supportive environment. The exact opposite of that is a company called The Motley Fool. Again, in the finance space, they give finance advice. They do a lot of work in the financial sector. I'm sure a lot of you guys probably read their publications, the news that they put out. I had a chance to visit The Motley Fool, and they're one of the few companies in the world that I have ever seen that has a chief collaboration officer. This guy's whole job is to figure out how to get people to work together, not just digitally, but in the real world. I mean, he actually plays games with them. Like they play a get out of the room game where they put a bunch of employees, they stick them in a room, they lock it, not actually lock it, but they give clues within the room and the employees need to figure out how to get out. They had something else where if every employee was able to look at any other employee and guess and get their name right, and if every employee could do that 100% of the time, they unlocked a pool of money for all of the employees to share. And of course, it worked. This is the type of organization where to get people to read their quarterly and their annual reports internally, they make it like a choose-your-own-adventure game. So instead of just reading the quarterly report, which is boring and dry, they make it, find out what happens, turn to page 24. They made it a choose-your-own-adventure game. Right? So this is the type of organization that we're talking about. Create a supportive environment. If you want to have this type of a digital experience, you have to think about the physical environment that you actually have for your employees. You can't have one environment in one place and another environment in another place. It's not going to work. So think about what you can do to create that supportive environment. The next one is persistence. I can't tell you how many times organizations struggle with collaboration efforts. And how many of you guys have kids? Okay, a lot of you. Now, think about when your kids first started to learn how to walk, right? The kid's learning how to walk, kind of fumbling around, and the kid falls. You don't just look at the kid and say, walking's not for you, right? You don't do that. You look at them and say, come on, get up, you can do it. Come to me, try again. Right? Kids fall down all the time. You got to get them to get back up and to try again. The same thing will happen with your collaboration efforts, or the same thing will happen with pretty much any technology effort that you have within your company. You will run into obstacles. You will run into all sorts of things. A lot of them you don't even know what they're going to be. The key is not to just lay there and say, we tried, it's whatever. Right? You got to get back up, see what went wrong, see what you can do, keep moving forward. Now, of course, that entails having support from your executives, and from your managers, and from your leaders. But persistence is absolutely key. My favorite example of this is APL Logistics. They had a very hard time getting budget. This was a massive company, and there was mainly one guy within this entire company that was trying to get budget from this huge organization to get some kind of collaboration platform going. One guy. And at first, the company wouldn't budge. They said, no, we got SharePoint, which those of you, I don't need to say anything, right? So he said, we got SharePoint. And the guy said, nobody's using it. It's hard to use. It's not working, blah, blah, blah. And they said, no, that's what we got. And so the guy's like, how am I going to get my organization to fund me, to get me anything? And so what he did is he went to their largest customer, and he said, look, I'm trying to get my company to collaborate more. Don't you think as a customer that would help you? Don't you think you would be better served as a customer? Don't you think it would be more efficient and more productive and less hassle for you? And their largest customer said, damn right it would. So he went back to his team and he said, look, I just talked to our largest customer and they said we should be doing this. How can we not do it now? The management team said, okay. Right? I mean, it took him 18 months, literally pounding that pavement, this one guy at the company, for him to be able to get that kind of budget. And he still has a lot of challenges and a lot of things that he's going through. But the key is you have to be persistent, right? You have to stand up for this cause. You have to kind of go for it. Collaboration is huge, right? It's one of the top things that organizations are investing in. It's not a question of if we should be doing this. It's a question of how can we get this done right now. So be persistent. Number 10 is adapt and evolve. My favorite example of this is Schneider Electric. This is a company with 140,000 employees that was started in the 1830s. This is an old, old company. Recently, they launched a platform called One, which, just by the name, you can tell what it was designed to do, to bring everyone together. But they not only had to think about how employees were working, they had to think about how customers were interacting with Schneider Electric. Previously, every customer had to go to a different person for anything that they wanted to get done, which was very inefficient. As a result of their collaborative technologies, customers were able to go to one person to get a solution instead of going to one person to get a product. Right? So you have to adapt and evolve and think about how this is going to impact different areas of your business.
Thanks for watching. Before you go, please remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you can get access to more videos just like this one. 96% of people are not subscribed. Hopefully you are not one of them.
Number 11 is employee collaboration also benefits the customer. Oftentimes, organizations forget this. They say, why do we want to invest in these collaborative technologies? We have email, blah, blah, blah. It also benefits the customer. Intuit is a fantastic example of this. Because as a result of Intuit being able to collaborate more and bring in their employees, their innovation sped up, they were able to deliver better products to customers, more products to customers. So they were able to dramatically benefit customers. When customers had issues, employees at Intuit were able to resolve them faster, more accurately. So this isn't just something you're doing for your employees, it's something that also dramatically benefits the customers. And finally, number 12 is I have this weird, hokey belief collaboration fundamentally makes the world a better place. The leading cause of stress is our jobs. We spend more time worrying about our jobs than anything else in the world. What impact would it mean if we were to enable flexible work, if we were to enable employees to use their own platforms, if we were able employees to give them more time to spend outside of work with their friends, with their families, with their loved ones, if we were to help them make them feel more engaged and fulfilled and empowered in the work that they were doing? Employees would genuinely become happier people. I mean, the recent numbers from Gallup show that we have 70 or 80% of employees around the world that are not engaged in their jobs. Actually, they are zombies walking around within our companies. If anybody watches the show The Walking Dead, you should be freaked out of your mind right now. Right? Most employees within our companies are zombies. I think a lot of these technologies can help solve that problem by making us more engaged and fulfilled and empowered in the work that we're doing. And so I think for the first time in the history of business, companies can invest in technologies that not only positively impact the lives of employees at work, but also outside of work. And that's something that we've never seen before. So these are the 5 trends shaping the future of work and the 12 habits of highly collaborative organizations. And what I encourage you to think about is how you can apply some of these 12 principles into what you're doing within your organization. Because when we think about the future of work, it's about connecting people and information anywhere, anytime, any device. We know that we're going to have new technologies. We know that we're going to have freelancers. We know that we're going to see all these things coming within our organization. Connecting our employees together is the best way to mitigate risk and to identify opportunities going forward. So the question is, are you guys all ready for the future of work? And I'll leave you with that. Thank you.